Okay, so we're back here on Saturday after leaving the engine pretty much built up yesterday. I've got a few more bits and bobs to do before I start thinking about clearing out the engine bay and getting things ready to be installed. Today I've got to crank up the crank pulley bolt down the bottom of the engine. I have to put the crank seal in behind that first before I do that. I've got to put spark plugs in it and coil packs, put the top on the engine cover, and then all I've got to do after that is put the exhaust manifolds on. A few head studs that I've got to just sort out on that side of things. Let's get cracking with it. Right guys, okay, I've just put the headers on, or the exhaust manifolds, and one of the problems I had is the M50 block drain is further right than it is on the M52. On the M52 it's about where my finger is, in between the two ribs, halfway. The M50 one is closer to the right, which means if you're using the M52 headers, you can't thread in this O2 sensor. The original M50 block drain bolt looks like this. It's a bit chunkier in the actual size. So what I've done is I've taken the M52 one and I've cut the head down as much as I dare, so I can just about get a 13mm socket on it, and I've got it to thread just, but that's a bit of an unexpected problem I wasn't going to come across. Challenges of converting from M50 to M52. The engine is now built. We've put the crank pulley on, we've put the crank seal in. I've run a little line for an oil pressure gauge. Unfortunately I need to get an adapter for that, but I'm going to leave the line in place because it's a hard lined mechanical oil pressure gauge. In the engine bay right now I've just put in two new engine mounts, which you can see down here and down here. And at the present time I'm going to be changing the injectors, as some of you will know, some of you won't, but I've got a new fuel pressure regulator that's going in it here as well, so I'm just pulling out the old one, take a circlip off and pop a new one in. Easier said than done sometimes. There we go, it's the old one. There's our new one. They just slot down in there. I thought whilst I was here I might as well do these couple of extra little jobs, just because it's a hard sort of thing to access when you I've got all the engine in the car. So right, so all I'm going to do now is give all the engine bay a bit of a tidy up whilst I've got the access to give it a wipe down, and then start moving things out of the way so I can think about getting the engine out here on the crane and sticking them in. So it's gearbox on time. Everything is pretty much done on the engine. I'm just putting the gearbox on now. I think before I put it in the car I will put the starter motor on it. I need to decide what I'm doing with this oil pressure gauge sender. I'm leaving that in place right now because on the fitments we're down to oil pressure switch at the moment, but I wanted to run the hard line just now, so as soon as I put the gearbox on I realised this is in the way of the starter motor, so I have to have a rethink of that. But no, we're getting there. I'm hoping to get the engine and the gearbox into the car and bolted up this afternoon. I wanted to get it turning the key today, but that's pushing it a little bit because I've still got to put all the front end of the car back on and connect up the prop and everything, but we'll see how we get on over the next couple of hours. So the bad boy is pretty much in the engine bay. I've just got to slot her in now. Easier said than done. I don't have aircon in the way, thankfully, so I've got all rid of that out of the engine bay. Let's go for it and get it in. Right guys, we are Sunday morning now. It's pretty windy and it's pretty wet here today, so I knew this was coming, and yesterday I went hell for leather to try and get as much done as I possibly could. As you saw, we got the engine block in there with a bundle of wires, and I actually got the prop shaft connected up. I was basically trying to get everything done underneath the car so I didn't have to lie underneath the car today. And one of the things that involved was putting an O2 sensor bung into the exhaust, because I'm going to be running a wideband O2 sensor. Cutting a hole in the exhaust caused me some grief, and any of you who watch my videos know me. Tantrum came out.
Calm down.
Got very angry with it and didn't get anywhere. I needed to cut like a 22mm hole in the exhaust. I managed to get to about 14 and it just wasn't working. We're back here this morning. Lo and behold, once you've had a sleep with these things, we've got a hole in the, well, not even got a hole in the exhaust, we have an O2 bung in the exhaust. It's got a plug in it at the moment just to allow me to weld it in so it doesn't tighten up or anything like that, but it is there and it's ready to accept the O2 sensor, so the exhaust is ready to go on. It looks like such a nightmare, but in reality really we've got some coolant hoses we've got to do up. We were tight on this one here, and that's the feed to the block. We've got the hose pipe to go on from the block back towards the radiator, towards the expansion bottle, and we've got the fuel lines to plumb in. We've got the rear coolant hose here. This is the bad boy that burst on me back in Ireland, folks, if any of you watched the videos back from then. He wants to go that way around, I believe. I've had these hoses off because I've changed the heater valve. Right, and then from here I think the first protocol to get the fuel rail roughly out of the way. I want to get the main wiring trunk bolted back onto the block here if I can. This big bad boy here is from the automatic. Now I have a bit of a fear of just chopping wires off of wiring looms because I made a mistake few years back when I did that. So I've been keeping this bad boy just tucked up with a nice cable tie to hold them together. So I'm going to remain like that until one day if I ever get a manual wiring loom. Pretty happy with that. That's everything wired in and plugged in. I think we're at intake manifold point. The first things I need to do is connect up the vacuum line from the fuel pressure regulator to the bottom of the manifold. Okay, once that's on, I've got a new idle control valve on here. Sorry, not a new idle control valve, a new CCV. I hate the bolt at the back. I absolutely hate the one at the back. See, it's buried. It's time for the juicier stuff. Okay guys, fuel injectors in. Why am I putting in Volvo fuel injectors? Do I need them for a stroker build? No, I do not. They're more than I need for my stroker build. I bought them firstly for the main reason that I wanted to clean and have a fresh set of injectors in the car. And I looked at buying these bad boys, pink tops, and they were really expensive. And then when I thought about it, I thought, hang on a minute. I reckon I can have 6 Volvo injectors for cheaper. So I went a little skulk around, and lo and behold, yes, I could buy these 6 Volvo fuel injectors for a lot cheaper. These are 0280155-831 Bosch fuel injectors from a Volvo S60. Obviously Volvos only have 5 of them, so you've got to buy 6. But I've cleaned these out by using a kind of carb cleaner and a sort of connection and a plug and I put new pintle caps on them, I put new O-rings on them. I'm going to pop them in the fuel rail now. I'm going to do this just by a tiny bit of oil on my hands around the O-rings. And what I've had to do is I've had to turn the fuel map down to run these. So I've actually got my fuel map about 45% less fueling going into the car so that I can run these with the same fuel map that would have run these pink tops. Obviously I don't want them squirting out twice the amount of fuel. That's just going to make my car run really rich and wouldn't create any more power and totally fucking pointless, man. These are pretty much plug and play apart from the fuel map problem. So they have a slightly different duty cycle to this. Sorry, slightly different dead time, and obviously they pump a shitload more fuel. You don't want to just bang these in the car or you're going to end up having trouble with them, folks and guys. Folks and guys? What the fuck am I talking about? Lovely, lovely, lovely. And I think I'm pretty much wired up now. It will probably start. It's what happens if I start it and it's immediately burning oil. That's my biggest worry. You know, if the piston rings weren't quite tight enough or something like that. But
you would know when you put them in, wouldn't you?
I did test it, yeah, and it feels nice and tight, Bob, so yeah. Right, I think that's my cue, mate. Call it a morning. I'll be back for the afternoon. I have just verified the O2 sensor plugs are in the right place, and all I've got to do in the engine really is attach the CCV pipe from the rocker cover down to the CCV valve. And then what I'm going to try and do, it's not supposed to be raining this afternoon, but it's just trying now. So I'm going to get under the car, get the exhaust and the X-brace on, so I don't have to do too much rolling around on the floor once it gets wet, if it does get wet. Let's go for it. Whilst we're here, I might as well say it if I've not shown you already. I've got some AC Schnitzer wheels. Just before I start taking the car apart, I've got Federal tyres on. Not RSRs, I'm using Evoluzione 27145, whatever the bloody code is on them. Been pretty good, 17s, so can put big brakes in the front finally. I love them, really chuffed with them, didn't pay too much money, and I think they look nice. I like 5 spokes, easier to clean than the old things, so I'll be putting up for sale my old E36 ones. Happy days. Okay, so I'm sorry you can't hear me very well, the wind is blowing like crazy although it's not raining, but who cares, I've got the exhaust on and the X-brace is on. Happy days. Let's build the front of this car back up now and then think about putting the fluids in and starting it. I'm having fun. I'm getting a bit frustrated because of the order everything has to go back on in the front of the car. If I'm honest, I've had this piece on and off 3 times now because I'm not taking my time and I'm trying to rush it because I'm getting excited. But I think we're finally getting there. Okay, it's really beginning to look like a car again. Pretty beat. Front end's pretty much back together except for underneath. I just need to do up all the plastic rubbish around the arch liners. I need to put the airbox in, I need to put the dipstick in, I need to connect up the idle control valve pipe. We're actually not far away, we're not far away. Okay chaps and chapesses, it's time for new oil filter, new oil, brake-in oil, and all the other fluids. We need to put coolant in it, we need to put power steering fluid in. It's empty. Okay guys, so with the good old honey liquid going down into the top of the engine, that's basically it for the final details of putting the engine in the car. All that's left to do now is for me to get in there and turn the key and start it, which was a more complicated process than you'd expect, so we're going to save that for the next video. In the meantime, she should have been on the dyno by the time you watch this video, so stay tuned to the channel for where we show you the results of that. And I suppose all that's left for me to say is thanks very much for watching. As always, thank you for your engagement and your feedback. And for now, that's Paymo out.